Everyone knows what tithing is, right? It's God ordering us to give 10% of our income to the church, right? Nope, that's not what it is at all. Well, but it's so that the church can have money so that they can fund stuff, right? It's for their own benefit, not ours, right? Nope, that's not the whole story. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you what tithing isn't, what it actually is, and how you can do it properly. And I'll also back it up biblically, so you know I'm not just speaking random crap out of my mouth. And all you have to do is sit back and relax. First off, let's start out with what tithing isn't. Tithing, for us modern day people in the year 2025, it isn't a command from God. Before Jesus died and was resurrected, tithing was a requirement. It was ceremonial law in the Old Testament, but as we know, ceremonial law was all wiped out because of Jesus' death on the cross. This ceremonial law can be found in Leviticus 27:30. Let me go ahead and look up that verse. Yeah, it says in Leviticus 27:30, every tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or of the fruit of the trees, is the Lord. It is holy to the Lord. So yeah, there it tells us that we are ordered to tithe. But the context of this verse tells us that it's a ceremonial law. And we know that ceremonial law, not moral law, was all wiped out. Now with this, I'm not saying that all of the Old Testament is irrelevant, because there's still moral law that we're taught in the Old Testament. But this ceremonial law of giving 10% of our income, or back then it was 10% of your crops, but that is not a law anymore because of Jesus' death on the cross. And tithing isn't just good for the kingdom, it isn't just good for the church, but it's also good for your heart, for yourself. More on this later. And tithing isn't meant to be a burden on top of us. And it's not just supposed to be an action that we do reluctantly. And it's also not about just the money that you give, but it's so much more than that. Now a lot of that was pretty vague, but let me cover that a little bit more deeply as I tell you what tithing really is. Even though tithing is not a command from God, giving is a command from God. Matthew 6:2-4 says, "Thus when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. And your Father who sees you in secret will reward you." There it says when you give, not if you give. So yeah, giving, not 10%, but giving in general, giving your income and your time and your skills, is our order in the New Testament. Now let's also look at 1 Timothy 6:18. 6 verse 18. There to do good, to be rich in good works, and to be ready and generous to share. There it is, being generous to share. But in all these verses that I'm talking about, it tells us to give. But how much do we give? If it's not 10%, because that old ceremonial law is gone, how much are we supposed to give? Let's have a look at 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. It says each one must give as he has decided in his heart. It's not, okay, let me decide how much would be good for me, how much would benefit me the most, but it's decide in your heart. And if God is supposed to be the king of our heart, let God be part of that decision, how much he wants you to give. And that verse also tells us that it's supposed to be we're supposed to be giving cheerfully, not reluctantly, not under compulsion, not just doing it out of habit like it says, but doing it cheerfully, out of a desire. But like I said before, giving is not just about the money that the church will get. It's not about how the kingdom will be benefited by the money that you give. But it's also about what it does in your heart. I'm not going to read the whole story of the rich young ruler. Well, let's have a look and see which verse was it. It's verse 22 in Luke 18. When Jesus heard this, he said to him, "One thing you still lack. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me." So just for a little bit of context on this story, the rich young ruler was someone who came up to Jesus. He was like, okay, I'm the ruler of a kingdom, or ruler of a town or whatever, I don't think it's specific. But it's like, I have all these riches, and I've done all these good commandments, I've followed all of them to perfection, but how is it that I get to be saved? And Jesus said to him, sell all that you have and give it to the poor so that you may have treasure in heaven. He says, give your money, give everything you have so that you may have treasure in heaven. Not so that the poor may have food to eat. Not so that the ministry you give to has money to continue to survive, but so that you may have treasure in heaven. Now, this context of this story is like, we're not ordered to give everything we have, sell everything, sell my phone, sell whatever, but it's basically telling us not to hold money to the highest regard, to the highest standard in our lives. So giving, like Jesus orders the rich young ruler to do, is meant to be a heart check for us, to check our hearts, making sure that we aren't holding money to the highest priority in our lives, but that we're holding God to the highest priority in our lives. Giving is supposed to be a heart check for us. And it's supposed to be cheerful. One time I heard my pastor say, I'm not telling you to give for my own personal benefit. I'm not telling you to give so that this church can benefit. I'm telling you to give so that God can have more of you, that your heart can be more invested in God. And I totally agree with that. He has no idea how much I give, how much any of the families in the church gave, but he knows that whenever we give, that it does something in our hearts, that it gives our hearts up to God, that we're surrendering that money to God. Now that we know what tithing isn't and what it actually is, let's talk about how we can do it properly, and let me sum that all up for you in action steps. First off, you need to decide how much you want to give, how much of your income, how much of everything you want to give. It's not by your own thoughts, don't think about it on your own, but decide this through prayer. Because if God is the king of our hearts, and if we, just like 2 Chronicles 9 verse 7 says, we are supposed to decide in our hearts, then we need to have God help us in our hearts to decide how much we need to give. And we need to give with a cheerful heart, out of a desire, not reluctantly, not just because we have a habit of it, not just because there's an automatic transfer out of our bank account into wherever, but that we need to do it joyfully, happily, because we want to, not just because God tells us to. And in that, we give in our money, but also we need to give in our time. We need to serve God with our time. We need to serve Him with our energy. We need to serve Him with our skills. Go on mission trips, serve in your local area, in your church if there's any serving opportunities, that you would go do those because you're giving up your time and your energy and your skills to go do those things. So giving is not just about the money that you have that you're going to give to your church or to whoever, but it's all about giving everything, your energy, your time, your job, to God. And remember in this, that the organization you give to, whether it's a ministry, whether it's another nonprofit organization, whether it's your church, that they're not the only one benefiting. It's not just that they're benefiting, it's not the people that they're serving, they're the only people who are benefiting, but you are benefiting as well. Not the kingdom alone, but you're also benefiting, because it does something to your heart. It makes sure that your heart is consumed by God and God alone. That money isn't your top priority in your heart, but that it's God in your top priority. But as you give, as you decide with God how much to give and where to give, beware of prosperity churches that say, give to us money and God will bless you. Be a good Christian so that God can manifest your dream life into your existence. These are scams. Don't donate to them. They preach a prosperity gospel, that God is only there to help you manifest the dream life here on earth, when that could not be farther from the truth. God's top priority is not earthly gain, but it is heavenly gain for the kingdom. So don't donate to any prosperity churches. Let God guide you to where you need to give, and also let Him guide you away from where you're not meant to give, to these prosperity churches. So overall, tithing and money in general is a very controversial topic among Christians. I made a whole video detailing 3 truths about money, biblically backed of course, in 9 minutes. So if you want to check that out, you can. I think it's an awesome video, especially if you're thinking about giving to the kingdom, because it also helps prepare your heart for that. So if you want to check that out, that link is in the description. But personally, I just want to share this struggle with you. I'm kind of struggling with giving. I've been reading through Luke, and especially starting at the story of the rich young ruler and continuing on, I'm kind of struggling. Like, how much do I give? Where do I give my money to? Where do I give everything to? So right now, something I'm praying about is where to give, how much to give, and all that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that struggle. I'm struggling as well. And also I have some guided journals. Let me show you an example real quick. I have one right here. But yeah, this is the physical guided journal that I made. It's like, what will I be most proud of 1 year from today? What is one thing big or small that I can do to grow in my faith? How can I make God proud today? But yeah, there's a physical one. There's a digital one in there as well. But whenever you buy one of those, I donate 50% of the revenue that I get to ministries. So if you want to check that out, you can. Or if not, that's totally fine as well. But with that, I wish you well, and us all well, even people who aren't watching this video. And also I pray for myself. I wish us all well on our journey to learning how to give to the kingdom responsibly in a way that honors God. And with that, peace out and God bless.